Sandro Tonali, Jan-Paul van Hecke, Mateus Fernandes, Senesi, Andy Robertson, Martin Dúbravka. These are the transfers Spurs have already completed in the early weeks of this transfer window. This continues a recent tradition of the club going out and spending big to improve their squad. Within the last year leading into this summer, they bought Xavi Simons, Mohammed Kudus, Gallagher, Mathys Tel and Kevin Danso, which amounted to over €260 million in transfer fees. This summer alone, the London club has already spent about €300 million on transfer fees, and they're not done just yet. Add on the monies they spent in January and last summer, and they're up to over €500 million in purchases. All of this has left football fans very puzzled, and everyone has had one question at the tip of their tongues. How can Spurs afford all these signings? Well, we'll be telling you exactly how in this video today.
Hey fam, this is your chance to build the jersey collection you've been waiting for. The Goal 90 bundle deal is live. Buy 2 jerseys and get 10% off. Buy 3 and get 15% off. Buy 4 and get a massive 25% off. Club kits, country kits, retro classics, pick your favourites and save big. And yes, every order comes with free worldwide shipping. The deal runs only until the end of May. Goal 90 bundle deal. Buy more, save more. Shop now at Goal 90 Shop.
First of all, over the last 3 years, Spurs have been able to offload a lot of top players, which has not only helped them fund new transfers, but has also created massive wage space for them to accommodate new signings. Between 2023 and now, Spurs have generated over €250 million from player sales alone. This has included the sales of Harry Kane, Son Heung-min, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Giovanni Lo Celso and others. Add on the release of top guys like Ivan Perisic, Sergio Reguilon, Tanguy Ndombele, Lucas Moura, Yves Bissouma and Eric Dier, and they have been able to significantly reduce their expenses, making it more financially viable for them to make big signings. On top of that, their new state-of-the-art stadium, which they officially opened in 2019, is something of a massive moneymaker for them. Through tiered ticketing and hospitality, the club is able to make about £5 million every single match day. That type of amount can go a long way in boosting a club's financial credibility. In addition to that, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium also generates income through non-footballing avenues. It essentially also operates as a multi-purpose entertainment venue. The stadium hosts big concerts, boxing matches, and other big entertainment events yearly. So even during the off-season, the stadium is still generating a lot of income for the club. What's more, this stadium also hosts NFL games. The club signed a very lucrative partnership to host at least 2 NFL games every year, which is another avenue that brings the club a lot of money. Right now, it is the only purpose-built NFL stadium outside the US, and it is often called the NFL Home outside the USA. So this here is one revenue-generating avenue that Spurs have over most of their rivals. And don't forget that Spurs got some money from winning the Europa League last year, and also from qualifying directly for the knockout rounds of the Champions League by finishing in the top 8 this season. So basically the club has earned money through different means over the last couple years, but here's where it gets a little more interesting. The Premier League is transitioning from PSR to SCR, and that's about to change everything for Spurs and how much they can spend. How? We'll get to that in a second, but if you aren't yet subscribed to the channel, go do that right away so you never miss out on our amazing content. Okay, now back to the video. The transition from profitability and sustainability rules, PSR, to squad cost ratio, SCR regulations, reduces restrictions on spending for clubs in the Premier League. Basically, Spurs can now spend 85% of their total revenue on on-pitch squad cost, which includes transfer fees, player wages and agent fees. And what's crazy is that Spurs can even afford to spend up to 115% of their total revenue and not get into serious trouble. They would only be slapped with a monetary fine. Essentially, they now have more wiggle room to spend than they did in previous windows, which is why they seem to be going absolutely crazy right now. But one very important thing to note is that they are actually not going as crazy as you might think they are. First of all, they have been smart by targeting players who were available for free and getting them early before other clubs showed interest. They have already signed Andy Robertson, Senesi and Martin Dúbravka for a combined total of €0 this summer. But of course, they have secured some big money signings and in fact have already broken their club record transfer fee this summer on Sandro Tonali. So far, they have spent close to 300 million euros on Van Hecke, Tonali and Mateus Fernandes, but it actually doesn't register as a 300 million euro expense for this year. Why? Well, because the cost of these transfers can be amortized over a maximum of 5 years, which means that if they end up spending a total of 500 million euros on bringing in new players this summer, it would only register as a 100 million euro expense for this financial year. So once again, they have more than enough wiggle room to do as much business as they want in this window. Now, in addition to how much the club is able to generate from match days, use of the stadium, prize money from European competitions, and other avenues, remember that they also have wealthy owners. The Lewis family, who are the majority owners of Tottenham Hotspur, just injected £100 million into the club in June through their investment company Hecke. Mind you, they had previously injected £100 million into the club in October last year, and reports say that there's more to come. So it is obvious that the owners are empowering the CEO and fully backing the coach to take the club to greater heights, especially following its struggles in the Premier League in the last couple seasons. Now, some people might say that the £100 million investment has already been completely swallowed up by the Sandro Tonali signing alone, but remember what we just said about amortization. Let's say that the total cost of that Tonali transfer, including the wage package and agent fees, comes up to £200 million. Once it is amortized over 5 years, it only goes down as a £40 million expense in the financial year, so essentially Spurs can actually still afford to sign a few more players. And it is quite obvious what the club is trying to do here too. They are trying to get the players they want early in the window so as to avoid the anticipated inflation that will come about later in the summer after the World Cup and after other clubs start to get into bidding wars for players. They are also surely going to sell a few players later in the window. Right now, they seem to have 4 goalkeepers, 10 centre-backs and 11 midfielders. Obviously that's a lot, especially for a team that won't be playing in Europe, and they can surely not go into the season with such a bloated squad, so the club will definitely sell players. Guglielmo Vicario is certain to leave, Christian Romero might be sold, Archie Gray is being heavily pursued by Newcastle, and we still expect a couple more movements. By the time the window is closed, Spurs might even have sold enough players to offset about half of their transfer expenses. In fact, they have already started to sell. The club has reached an agreement with Brighton for the sale of Luka Vuskovic for a total package of £50 million. Already, that pretty much balances out the fee they agreed to pay Brighton for the purchase of Van Hecke. Tottenham can realistically generate up to £250 million via the sale of players in this window alone, and that essentially means that they can spend even more than they already have. So yes, it really does look like Spurs have been going crazy in the transfer window so far, but the truth is that they can afford to spend all that money and more. And they can also do it without getting into trouble with the Premier League and its new squad cost ratio regulation. And to be fair, you can see exactly why they need to do all this spending. Having finished just above the drop zone in back-to-back seasons, Spurs are now trying to do everything in their power to ensure that they never find themselves in that position again. They see themselves as a big club, and they want to be at the top of the table fighting for the biggest trophies, and they believe that these signings will help them do exactly that. But do you agree with that notion? Do you think that Spurs will become competitive again with these signings, or are they just throwing money away by overpaying for players? Tell us what you think in the comments. Also, if you have more insight into how Spurs are able to afford all these signings, feel free to educate us in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, turn on the bell notification so you never miss out on new content. Catch you in the next one. Bye.